Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fraternal Conversations and Consolation. Today, I have with me Brother John Zimmerman. Brother, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to have this opportunity to chat across the time zones.
Indeed, yes, you're an hour ahead of me in Scranton, Pennsylvania, right? Scranton?
Yep, out here in Scranton, we're just 2 hours from New York City and 2 hours from Philadelphia.
I tell you, I know those times because I watch The Office, but it's fun times. But I'm sure you
You
get to
bet.
hear
You
that
bet.
every day. People ask you, "Oh, are you an Office fan?" So it's like, sure. And what's the name
Go
of the church
Peacock.
again?
All right.
What's the name
Uh,
of the
I'm here at
congregation?
I'm here at Emmanuel Lutheran, just like you're at Emmanuel Lutheran, but I'm Emmanuel Lutheran here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I'm also a vacancy pastor at St. John's in Pittston, about 17 miles away.
And are you the circuit visitor then too, or no?
Not currently. I was an emergency appointment for 2 months, but that's not my current duties, so
Okay,
that's
so
all right.
serving the vacancy, serving the Saints of Emmanuel, husband,
Yep.
all these fun vocations. But
You bet. You bet.
no,
Yeah, six.
go ahead.
Oh, I would say I got married out here. Dear Krista, our sixth wedding anniversary is upcoming Sunday. So praise
Nice.
the
There
Lord
you go.
for that. Yeah.
Thanks be to God. It's good to have a good wife. I mean, Allison and I got married before I went to seminary, and it's always good to have a good, godly wife as you do the work of the ministry, help you bear some of the crosses of what you go through on a daily basis. But that's why I wanted to have you on here because a good wife can only know and bear so much with you because she's not placed into the office. I remember, I don't know if you saw this fad going around, and I think it's dying out, was at some ordinations, they would actually bring the wife up and lay hands on her as well and say, "You're joining in the ministry with your husband." And I remember seeing that going, "No, she's not." No, 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 she's not. Not because of like some women's ordination issue, but from a thing of no, she's the man's wife. She's not the assistant pastor. She's not the go-to organist, secretary, or the person you now go to when you don't get your way with the pastor. She is a child of God like everyone else is at the congregation, a saint who needs to be fed and who struggles with sins and who needs that nourishment. But she's not a team in the ministry with him. So it's good to have a godly wife to bear a lot of the crosses you have in life, but she's not a Barnabas to our Paul. And that's something you've been mentioning a little bit. Some Facebook posts and other things, the need for each guy to be kind of teamed up. But you take it from here. You've mentioned it more. So go ahead.
Yeah. So kind of the whole thing came about some chats I've had out here in Pennsylvania. I mean, back in 2016, I'm a young second career guy. Actually served where your pastor at. I was an admissions counselor. I still got my old name tag here, so a little artifact. 12 years ago, I left. It feels like yesterday, but
Man.
anyways, go to seminary in Fort Wayne, fellow Fort Wayne grad with you. You were
Yep.
before, but in 2016, I was placed here at Emmanuel Scranton, 3 miles up the road, different district, a non-geographic district, but a brother was placed as well.
Yeah.
He now serves in your district on the east side in
Right.
Champaign.
Yep.
And it's like, well, that was kind of cool. Like, hey, we're placed 3 miles from each other. And so we're kind of in the same situation, but sadly, just realities of finances, whatever, needed a call away. Then the other 1/2 mile away, World War I splinter parish, that pastor resigned in 2018. So I go from three guys in one county to boom, I'm the last one since
Yeah.
2018. Then helping surrounding vacancy situations. I had two for a while, went back down to one. I'm not alone on this. I mean, obviously the Lord's with us, but a lot of brother pastors are dealing with this around the synod. Um,
Right.
I've been guilty of being a loudmouth on some things from time to time, but
Ah,
I was just saying, hey, what can we do? What can we think of differently? Of can we get can we ask ourselves this question of, like, a lot of our parishes have two pastors at one place, but like,
Right.
what would it take to have parishes link up together to support two in an area? Maybe it's two parishes or congregations or four or whatever it may be, but what can we start thinking that, hey, we're not independent contractors,
Right. Right.
right? Right. We are the church. Yes. We are in the Missouri Synod. Yes. I am called to Emmanuel Scranton, and yes, also now St. John. I
Yeah.
mean, we can deal with proper call. Fine. That's not that's a paperwork prayer issue.
Right.
Um, but what do we do to, hey, let's have pastors in Northeast Pennsylvania? And real fast after this whole came up for you, you saw my post, and I mean, I actually had a district president, actually a couple reach out to me on this. Thought I was in trouble, but thankfully not. And that's okay if I was, but because to speak in truth on this.
Yeah.
But we learned that in Minnesota North, not far
Yeah.
from you, just going up I-35, 62% of their parishes are these multi-points
Yep.
and like retirees helping. So put that in perspective, that's 120 parishes in northern Minnesota dealing with this. So
Yeah.
it's not just a Pennsylvania problem, not just a Minnesota problem, it's across our nation.
Yeah.
So how can we encourage each other? Because I mean, video chats are nice, but how do we encourage each other on the ground?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is I've my first call, I was called as the associate, and my senior pastor died before I got there, and then I got an associate about 2 years later. And for those 2 years, I was on my own doing it, and then I had my guy, and it was good. We were able to bear crosses together specifically. We knew the things we were dealing with, could talk about it. Obviously, we never talked about anything that was related to private confession, but we could talk about issues going on in the church. We also were each other's protectors. I love this with Luther in his writings on his lectures on First Timothy. He mentions why does Paul add mercy to the greeting to Timothy? He never says mercy to the churches. It's always grace and peace. With Timothy, he adds mercy. And why is this? Is because the pastor, the one placed into the office, has the heaviest burden. He is the biggest target for the devil and his assaults. So, with having pastors together, you're able to care for one another, protect one another, have each other's back. Um, and I had the same thing in Texas. I had an associate there, Michael Daniels, who's down in North Carolina now. But when he and I would have issues, not he and I specifically, but anything going on in the church, I spoke well and defended him. He spoke well and defended me, which allowed us to be better pastors. Um, if your pastor's stretched so thin and doesn't have that support, it's not like the devil's going to let up. Once the devil knows you're weaker, he's going to attack even more. He's going to come at you even more. And the ways he comes at you are various. So having that Barnabas or having that Paul is, I think, what we need. And I like how you mentioned, how do we do this? Not every church can call two guys, but maybe 3 or 4 churches can come together and call two guys, or 4 or 5, however many. But getting that, I like how you mentioned the reality of what gets in the way a lot with that is the worship time. You know,
Yeah.
who gets
Yeah.
prime time Sunday morning at 8:30 or 9 o'clock so you can still go home and watch football and you don't have to give up your Saturday night. But you know,
Yeah, I mean, there are practical concerns, right? So my full-time parish is Emmanuel Scranton. I'm in the parsonage there right now in this chat. Uh, but so St. John's meets at 8 o'clock. Then I swing back up. We do 10 o'clock and a Bible class after. I mean, at the end of the day, realistically, a pastor can serve two places in a Sunday morning if he's alone with realistic
yeah,
drive times. I mean,
right.
can't go 2 hours away or anything
No,
like that. But so you can do that. And the thing is, I mean, I don't remember which class they prepared us at seminary with this, but they were warning us about the incoming changes of the demographics of the clergy roster. They said,
Hmm.
be prepared to be circuit riders. Well,
Yeah.
meaning one pastor serving multiple places, but I will tell you without sharing dirty laundry, but it's been difficult trying to schedule different places during the week. Like, oh, no, we want Sunday. I'm like, I'm one man.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not Jesus. I cannot be everywhere. And I can give his word to you. I can feed you his sacrament. It's a
Right.
joy to dole out the absolution, but I'm one guy.
Right.
So sometimes you have to, hey, I am called to Emmanuel Scranton. So I have to be like, that is where my authority is at.
Right.
But you try to be, hey, how can I help? But we have to be more open ended to, well, maybe we meet on Monday or Tuesday or whatever. And quite frankly, if you really want Sunday morning, take a look in your region. Where can you make that 10 o'clock service somewhere
Hmm.
that you're already driving to the mall
Yeah.
to get to? Or
Yeah.
how far is it to your local Target,
Right.
you know, Sam's Club, whatever it may be? Can we start thinking about, hey, if I really can only do Sunday morning, can I be that ambassador
Yeah.
from the other smaller parish and go
Yeah.
visit the bigger one? I mean, we're not stealing members here. We're all one synod.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but that's the thing is it's like one of the I've talked to a couple people about this. You hear the Senate talking now. We're going to need pastors are going to have to realize bivocational is going to be the norm. You're going to be doing a job during the week and pastor on Sunday. And it's like, okay, but you just said in your speech yesterday that we live in a world that is increasingly more wicked, increasingly less moral, and increasingly not believing the word as much. Why would you then weaken the office of the holy ministry? It's like if America said, you know what, China's coming, and so is Russia and all these other people, but you know what, we're going to cancel the Navy SEALs and the Green Berets and Delta Force. You know, we're just going to get rid of those because that's we need more bivocational soldiers. We're going to focus more on the reserve guys. You know, not these guys that are the experts, the specialists. That would sound crazy. You'd be like, why are you getting rid of our greatest soldiers when the threat is larger? Why do that instead of investing in it? Like you mentioned, we go to the mall, we do these trips. Let's invest in the reality of where we're going, where moth and rust do not destroy.
yeah, I mean, so obviously you can't full time defend the border or a
No,
fortress
right?
if someone's not there. Um, but what do we need to do to make it big enough to
Yeah,
support the staff needed?
yeah,
Right? I mean, we are brother pastors, right? In this battle, you're out there on the picket line along the Mississippi River. I'm
yeah,
out here, 2 hours from New York, just trying to, hey, we have these places we serve at, you bet. But how many do we need to network together to support the ministry?
right.
And this is not a cash grab.
No,
This, I mean, pastors are not in this to be rich, but I mean, I had this conversation in our circuit at a joint meeting we had with the Eastern District, and I mean, I brought it up privately to a smaller group. I'm like, if you took the money that people are giving annually to support the buildings of their parish,
yeah,
if you took 4 of those parishes and took gifts from 3 of them, that would fully support the second guy
yeah,
in an area.
yep,
So what's more important? And if it's the buildings, that's a first commandment issue,
yeah,
of idolatry, and it gets
hmm,
me in trouble when I bring it up. But it is that problem.
yeah,
So we go, well, what can we do to partner with another to make sure we have, you know, ministry in our place? And there are proper places. I know some don't like it and whatever, but there are proper places for the SMP pastor, right?
hmm,
Raise up somebody in a place. Fine.
yeah,
Well, who do you have in your parish to do this?
yeah, right.
And if you don't, well, then we need to go back to synod, right? And let's get help sent
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And I gotta give St. John's credit in Pittston. It's been a 7 year. I didn't think it'd go this long. It's been a 7 year relationship, but they cross the parish boundaries for events.
Yeah.
They help with our Braille operate.
Yeah.
We have a Lutheran Braille Workers Production Center. I mean,
Yeah.
they come to our potlucks, our midweek services, because I'm like, hey, I'm one guy. It's going to happen here.
Yeah. Right.
I can't be everywhere.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Well, no, and it's in addition to that, I ask each pastor this, and I always get the same answer. I said, "When's the last time you went to church? Like sat in the pew? Not when's the last time you served? Because all the thing is, oh, I'm feeding myself when I preach. No, my thought when I'm preaching is not me; it's those that are hearing. So the last time you went and just were fed and nourished in the divine service."
well, last time for me would have to be probably a Symposia Wednesday service
Yeah, right.
back at Fort Wayne in January.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you ran into one of the saints during the week and you haven't seen them in a few weeks? You're not going to go, "Hey, don't worry, I saw you a few weeks ago. You're good to go." No, you're going to be like, where were you the past few Sundays? You need to be here. You need this. You need to be nourished. You need to be reminded from outside of yourself how much Christ loves you. You need to see the burdens of I said one time, going to church is about being fed, but it's also about emptying of yourself in love for your neighbor. What does my neighbor need? Bearing their idiosyncrasies so that we may know how much Jesus puts up with us. But, this reality. And pastors, it's like I went to church all the time before I became a pastor. I mean, before I went to Sim, I was in church on Sundays. I was in church midweeks. When I'd go back home to Fort Wayne, Redeemer would have like daily services, daily Lord's Supper, Peterson doing his thing. And I'd be one of those. Actually, one time, I remember this was I think it was during Advent. He did a divine service one morning, and I was the only one that showed up. He still did the entire divine service, like a shortened midweek version, whole 9 yards. And then he had this huge wafer. And for the Lord's Supper, he just broke it in half. And he like gave me half of it. And he preached his sermon. He preached his sermon just to me. But I was like, I loved going to church. And I miss that nourishment. Because even now, being a pastor, even sitting in the pew is hard because when a guy preaches, what am I doing? I would have gone a different route with that. Or, I would have, he missed a good, well, no, but this is the sermon God has given me right now that I need to hear that I may be fed. So, and if you have two guys, sometimes you're able to do that then. You can have that nourishment, that sustenance.
Yeah, you could make a calendar work for that to ping pong around. But just, I mean, where did this whole idea of multiple guys come from? I mean, just real briefly, it's a scriptural directive. It's not just Barnabas and Paul being partners, fine. But, I mean, look at Luke 10. Right. You got the sending of the 72.
Right.
All right. Not just the sending of the 12, but then the bigger group of disciples. They were sent out 2 by 2. I mean, praise the Lord for that. And even when you look at Titus, right, you got this is why I left you in Crete to put things back into order.
Right.
Well, it might be useful to have more than one guy trying to put it back in order.
Exactly.
I mean, we brother pastors get called in on these chats with other churches when things go on. I mean, without revealing which ones. I mean, I just had one not that long ago, and I'm like, hey, I'm not your circuit visitor or anything, but hey, they just want another opinion on the matter.
Right.
And I'm like, well, this is what the Bible says. Here's what confessions say. This is what I would do. Like, I can't tell you what to do, but this is what I would do.
Right.
But if you had that already built in with, I don't know, the buy-in of life together and trust, right? We're bearing with one another. It's a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have end dates on our pastorates.
No.
Right. We're not sent out. Hey, you got a 5-year term, 3-year term. It's we're supposed to do the duration until you're
Yeah.
called away, either heaven, retirement, or another call.
Yeah.
Um, so let's dig in together and
Right.
serve together.
Right.
Um,
And it is
and we
different.
can,
It is different, like you say. You can do these things like we're doing right now, which is great. And I have brother pastors I talk to, on a regular basis and bear crosses with them. But it's different than actually being there, physically seeing a guy, seeing what his eyes look like, seeing how he's holding himself up, seeing like how's he preaching? Is he kind of just getting through it? Like he's going through the motions? Or is his preaching lately very legalistic and law giving, very angry because he's dealing with something? Or, where's he at? And unlike a wife, unlike a good elder, you can have the best elders in the world, but they still don't know exactly what you're bearing because they're not in that office. Um, but having that guy that can do that with you, that's kind of like, well, why not? We may not have it. You and I may not experience this ever in our lifetime, and that's fine. But why don't we start aiming toward that? So that maybe as we pass the alb and pass the chasuble and pass the stole, we pass through it and on to the next guy. Maybe that next generation can have this because they'll be facing an even more depraved world that continues to get darker and darker until that last day. So maybe let's focus now on our vocation in this generation is to bring the ministry back to that, going out two by two. Um, and then they can benefit from that. That wouldn't be a bad thing. So,
no, it would be a blessing. I mean, I just got to appoint our newest elder at Emmanuel. I'm now the old guy. He's half my age. I mean,
I love
such joy to appoint a 20-year-old. I just turned 41.
it.
And I'm like, hey, I told the board when we had that meeting, I said, look, I only have 24 years left.
Yep.
I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, oh no, it's 26. They raised us to 67 now, right?
Yeah, I
But
think
point
so. Yeah.
point is, it's not that far away when you
No.
think. I mean, if any of my high schoolers, if any of the high school seniors went to seminary starting next year, we are still like not 8, 9 years away from them making it through the process. It
Yeah.
takes a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll be well at 50 if
Yeah.
any of them go through.
Yeah.
So let's slow down, see who we can identify. Let's see who we can build up. Who do we currently have that we can build up in the pastor,
Right.
roster, and let's encourage our congregations to do what synod is, and that is walking together.
Right.
How do we? Because I mean, joyfully out here, one of the things is two of the parishes, a county north and northwest, both are mission plants of this parish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe we need to walk together again for a while
Yeah.
and praise the Lord. If you got to do that to get by, fine. Maybe
Yeah.
the Lord grants growth and we call the next guy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here to serve, we're here to help.
Right.
But we also need more. I mean, we prayed to the Lord of the harvest to send more into the
Yeah.
harvest, but we hope that the harvest workers walk together.
Yeah. And that's the key thing is when you know the burdens you're bearing, you're able to do that. Seeing each other as brothers doing the same work. We're placed into the one office. It's not like there's a million different offices of the Holy Ministry. There's one office into which we are placed. Yeah. And when we see that, then there can be this true life together and the real work is done. So then, yeah, when the devil hits his alarm clock, he's nervous to get out of bed because we're out to get him. So it's fun times. Well, brother, thanks
Indeed.
for coming on with me today. This was fun times. It was a good time having you. So
yeah,
God's blessings and blessings to all the brother pastors out there and the hearers. Yeah, your pastor loves being thanked. He loves being loved. He loves being prayed for. Realize your pastor loves doing what he does. And what he really, the greatest delight for him is that you receive it, bear it and grow in it and nurture it and have joy in it. So that's what we're going to keep doing. Well, hey, God bless you, brother, and everyone else. And we'll see you next time.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Here we go.